All right, welcome into NFL Week 6. The season is flying by. We're coming off an undefeated week. It feels good to win, Steve. How you feeling?
Feels damn good. Winning cures all.
Amen to that, brother. Without anything else, let's get right into
Give
it.
a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
All right, Steve, we are firmly in week 6. The season is off to a start. I don't know, good, bad, whatever. We are obviously, we had a good week in the NFL in week 5, but week 6 is a new week and the season marches on. We are going to get it kicked off. We're going Thursday night football, divisional matchup, Seattle, San Francisco. This is an interesting game. Both these teams coming off losses. San Francisco, everybody's talking about how it's it's a spiral. Who is this team without Christian McCaffrey? They might as well not even play. This team is so bad. That being said, this market opened at 3.5, is currently sitting at 3.5. Or sorry, open at 3, currently sitting at 3.5. There has been pressure, though, to grab those 3.5s up on Seattle. Our number makes this 5 in favor of the 49ers. Slight edge to bet it. We obviously, it's not enough edge for us to bet it, not at the 4%, but there is value on San Francisco. Give me your thoughts, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, shout out to the model because we were on Arizona plus 7.5, and they straight up won outright. And I got to be honest, for me, that there's definitely concern with both these teams. First and foremost, let's talk about the 49ers game and how they got a little wonky once Jake Moody got injured. Essentially, they had to abandon the kicking game except for one chip shot field goal that they put in with, I believe, with Wisnowski. But other than that, they did sign Matthew Wright to a one-year deal. Obviously, they're not going to not have a kicker going forward. But, what does that look like? For me, I think the bigger issue is who are these teams and what can we expect from them going forward? And you look at it, what San Francisco has always hung their hat on has been their success rate, one, and their echo rate, right? Like, how often are these teams driving the ball, getting to the opponent's 40 where you expect to see points? And that is somewhere where San Francisco, despite all this sort of controversy, has really excelled at. Yes, CMC is out. We've seen Jordan Mason for a few games now. I do expect to see more of the same. What's concerning to me, though, is what are we seeing out of the Seattle team? This is a team that, let's be fair, was leading the NFC West, right? A team that no one was really talking about. And they just kind of quietly did their thing. And then they lost to the Giants. That to me is very concerning. But again, it's the NFL. Anything can happen for one game. But when you look at this matchup strictly on who these teams are on an advanced metric statement or advanced metric setting, let's not overreact. Let's not overthink this one. The model does show value in San Francisco. And for one, I still agree with that. I do think in and out, they are the better team to top to bottom. I have questions about what's going on with Seattle and that loss to New York.
Yeah. And I think that's all well said. I think the one thing I will point out here is it does seem a bit of overreaction to me for San Francisco. San Francisco's 60% echo rate given this season. This isn't last season. That's this season, 60% echo rate. One of the best in the league. When we're looking at the defense for Seattle, though, they're giving up 44% echo rate. So, I mean, I do think San Francisco is going to be able to move the ball. Also, both these quarterbacks quite interesting. If we look at our EPA per game, so how many points are these quarterbacks adding per game in the last 10 games? These are two of the best quarterbacks in our database. Purdy at 8 points added per game, and Geno with 7.2. Those are good for second and sixth in our database. So, I mean, these quarterbacks are actually playing somewhat well in that larger sample. I don't know. This to me is just an interesting game. San Francisco is still throwing the ball well. They're the 5th overall pass EPA, 18th against or 18 with the rush. So I think Seattle has an opportunity here to potentially slow them down, though, with the 9th pass defense and the 8th rushing defense. The one thing I will point at from an angle standpoint and a rest standpoint, which we find significant in our model, it's actually something we account for, is the rest differential and coming off a short week versus long week. And this is a new Seattle coaching staff. They have never handled a Thursday night game before. They've never had to come up with a game plan. They've never had to get, ready in a short week. Is there an angle there going up against a quote unquote more mature or seasoned coaching staff with Shanahan and crew and 49ers? Could be an edge there. And quite frankly, I'm just not sold that San Francisco is as bad as everyone's making it out to be. I don't think I find Seattle's loss to the Giants as bad. I don't think that the Giants are actually. I think they're pretty good defensively. They're about a median team defensively. And like you said, you add a good defensive matchup and then some variance offensively, you can get upset. So I'm going to firmly believe the model here. I think 5.5 is the play. If I were to play this, I think the 5 is the number. I think 3.5 is probably the play I'd play, and you can get cheap 3.5. -102 is the best I'm seeing on the board right now. Plus 100 pick them. You can get it even money 3.5 Caesars. I think is the play for me. If I'm going to be betting.
Yeah, and what I found was interesting on that, going back to that Giants Seahawks game. So if you look down, shout out to PFF for giving their game recap and player grades. But if you look at that game where the Giants won, they had an average EPA per play of negative 0.01, which is pretty much about zero. So to your point, about having a good defense and being able to take advantage of that if you're facing Seattle. The question I have is, do you expect the San Francisco 49ers to end the game with a negative EPA per play? Absolutely not. I don't, at least, right? And so, for me, it's part of the mental model that, yeah, I agree. Let's not overreact here. Give Arizona credit for a good win, but I expect business as normal when we go back for San Francisco versus Seattle.
Yeah, and if there is one weak spot for San Francisco this season, I think it is defensively. So to your point, I mean, I think this is probably going to be a normal divisional matchup. I think, I just lean that I think right now is a good spot to buy San Francisco. Pretty much in the NFL, when it feels horrible to buy the team, that's when you have to buy them, unfortunately, because it's so efficient. And I don't know if that it feels horrible to buy San Francisco here, but obviously some recency bias. They just lost to the Cardinals. The kicking issue is maybe a consideration here of why you do not want to cover a 3.5 spread, and may give you some hesitation and probably should come into the handicap here. Because to your point, things like PATs become a lot less, automatic, and those are really, really crucial for your key numbers. And so covering 3.5 may, take a hit there. So it maybe is an angle to consider if you want to be a Seattle backer, that you just think there's too many headwinds here for this San Francisco team. And it's just enough for the kicking issue to kind of put you over the edge to want to be there. Divisional game 3.5. I mean, you can convince me that there's some value. Obviously, I'm going to kind of trust the model, so to speak, because it's taking a lot of this stuff into consideration, right? So that's where my head is. That's where my heart is. Anything else on this game?
No.
All right. We are headed. I don't know if we're headed to London next or we're headed to London. Jags, Bears. Woo-wee. Right out the gate. Model loves Jacksonville. And this couldn't be more on time. I just told you when it feels gross as hell to buy a team, that's when you got to buy them. The model also agrees here because, boy, I'm not going to lie, it feels pretty gross to be buying Jacksonville here. In Chicago, I have to say, not really looking that great offensively. Caleb's getting a little bit better each week, but this Chicago defense is the real deal. Chicago's the number one pass defense and the 19th rush defense. And they look like it. They are really beating teams up. And they had a coming out party, both offensively and defensively, last week against Carolina. I don't know. How big of a deal is that game for you for Chicago? Is that a big deal that they went and kind of did their thing against Carolina?
Yeah, 100%, because you needed that reassurance that you're seeing progression. It's like the word you said, progression, right? You're seeing Caleb and, quite frankly, the coaching staff getting better and better at figuring out what works for him, because that's what's going to kind of make or break this. You mentioned how good the defense is, and the Chicago sort of mantra is just don't throw the game away. Like, the defense got you. You just don't get in our way. And you're seeing Caleb kind of progress, and especially in a system we'll talk about it later on in this episode, where you're seeing quarterbacks really flounder or succeed really based off where they're at. Now, to me, I'm going to double down on what you said. I'm going to echo it and scream it from the mountaintops. This feels absolutely gross.
Yep.
Absolutely gross to me. You're coming off a Bears team that seems to be figuring out in a very tight NFC North. Bears are 3-2. Shout out to Chicago. And statistically speaking, by win-loss record, the most competitive and best division in football. I just want to throw that out there. But to me, if you're looking for a spot here, it's going to be, do you still trust a rookie quarterback? Listen, Caleb is definitely progressing here, but let's not pretend like we can't have ebbs and flows to this. We talk about how chaotic this league is, but I do have concern and question, again, being on the Jags side this week about Trevor Lawrence, right? I mean, we talk about how good he has been from, a kind of a career standpoint, and where his legacy has been. But if you take away that one playoff game where they kind of come back, or you can argue the Chargers choke, what is Trevor's legacy here? Because he really hasn't seemed to be a world beater this year. And I think the expectations and where the Jaguars are so far are not really meeting what they were preseason.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair call out. I mean, for me, I think the kind of game script that's going to look like if the Jacksonville Jags are going to cover is getting a lot of pressure. Chicago is the 23rd most efficient rush offense. Jacksonville is the 10th best at stopping the run. So this is going to put a lot of pressure on Caleb. But if they're going to get pressure through their defensive line, which quite frankly, I think you would agree, there's one really sore spot with the offense of Chicago, it's their offensive line. And we've seen some pretty egregious
100%.
stuff. And this obviously doesn't help Caleb. You compound that with this interesting fact that this game is in London. The team that has the most experience going to London, traveling to London, playing in London is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chicago has pretty much no experience, and we add a rookie quarterback to this situation. Our model definitely is picking up on this, and is adding some value because of that. You can see we make this game -4 for Jacksonville. But I agree. I mean, we're going to have to see an interesting game plan out of Jacksonville. This isn't going to just be a romp. We're going to have to see a pretty efficient game plan because Chicago's the third best defensive echo rate. They are not allowing teams to drive on them, and they're going to have to figure out how to drive on this team, quite frankly. And I think they're going to try to do that on the ground. Jacksonville's the 5th best rush offense going against the 19th rush defense in Chicago. So if they're going to have success, I think that's where you're going to get it. Ground and pound. Look, I think the reality here is potentially both these teams. It's hard for me to figure out what the game plan is going to be for Chicago. It's really just protect Caleb Williams. Hopefully Caleb Williams isn't running for his life. Try to get some success through the air. But if I think I'm Jacksonville, it's, hey, we're going to try to run the damn ball here, which is going to eat clock, lower game, lower total, so on and so forth. That kind of helps the game script for the dog covering. So far, the market is a little bit in our direction. Some 2.5's been bought. There are still 2.5's available at Circa. Bookmaker took it down to 2. So we are seeing some agreement here with us, but we're sitting here on Tuesday. A lot of game left. All right. Anything left in this game, Steve? Any props, any other angles you want to be discussing or looking at?
Not from a proper angle standpoint, or from a prop standpoint just yet, but I will be curious. I'm not sure if I've seen, I'll try to look real quick of when Jacksonville planned to get into London, but we know the Bears have already spent a week there, and so or spending a week there. Excuse me, they're spending a full week in London in preparation for this game, getting themselves right. And we kind of saw this happen through a few of the London games last year, where teams kind of have this varying approach. We talk about travel, and if you guys are new to us, we really try to look past just a superficial level of stats and try to go a little bit deeper. Things about days rest and travel like that. Travel is definitely effective in terms of an angle, but it's already been priced into those kind of lines there. This is the known thing for years and years and years. But you do have these sort of caveats where teams, let's call them interesting choices of when to arrive for these international games, can definitely play an effect there. So Bears look to not be susceptible to that because they've already been there. And I'm just trying to figure out when Jacksonville, if and when they arrive.
Yeah, and they're doing a 2-week stint there. They're playing this week and next week in London.
That's a great point. And that's also something I want to look out for whoever they're playing.
But also coming from the East Coast, they've done this year in and year out. They've played multiple double headers. I mean, Jacksonville.
They should know what they're doing.
Yeah, they should know what they're doing. Chicago, I'm not saying that getting there early isn't the way to do it, but this is their kind of first go at it. And having to travel from the Midwest a little bit, 1 hour further behind. So it looks like maybe they'll get acclimated there. And we've seen this over the last couple of years. There's a couple of different strategies on how to play the London/Germany game. And there's a bunch of different answers. It's get there early, it's get there midweek, it's get there like the day before. We've seen it all. So we'll see how this kind of continues to evolve. But that's where we're at. Jacksonville +2.5. I actually think we got a -105 on that. So liking where we sit currently in the marketplace. All right. That's done with London. I think we're going to Philadelphia.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Born and
Bring me
raised.
home, baby. Take me to Wawa. Bury me a Wawa. All right. Eagles, Browns. This is going to be an interesting one. This is in Philadelphia. This is opened at an 8.5 point spread. We make the number 9. Market's still sitting at about 8.5. Cleveland looks to be in a spiral. They're getting most of the media attention about Deshaun. Let's start there. What is your kind of assessment of this situation? What is your assessment of this Cleveland offense and the Deshaun situation?
I mean, this is a nightmare, right? Like this is literally the worst case scenario for someone you give a fully guaranteed contract to. And I hate to ever side with the owners on anything, but you got to imagine this whole talk about fully contracted or fully guaranteed deals was already sort of a no-go for anybody else trying to get this. We kind of saw Lamar struggle with that a couple of years ago, but this will never happen again, right? Because this is what goes wrong. I mean, this team looks absolutely abysmal coming into or for this season and this sort of 6-game sample size. The Browns are second to last in overall EPA per play, only higher than the Miami Dolphins, who are having a tough go there without Tua. And then you look at the pass, that's really where it all falls down to negative 0.29 EPA per pass play. And that's fully on Deshaun. And I think what's more concerning to me is not only is the play not there, not only is the offense in general not getting it going, but then you have Deshaun coming out and saying, essentially, I don't want to run the ball. I don't want to be a running quarterback. I'm here to throw. I'm not here to run.
Yeah.
And, I get that to a certain degree, but at the same time, it's like, my guy, look at the scoreboard, look at the standings. Like clearly something has to change and you're not getting it done from that standpoint. So my fear is, and we don't model this or, try to capture this, but what is the locker room like? Because like this is the team to me that I don't want to overuse the term it's a collapse, but this looks like a collapse, right? I mean, look at this offensive expected points, negative 10.2. I mean, and no surprise, the alcohol rate is abysmal as well. They're not getting drives, not sustaining drives, and they're not getting to their opponent's 40. So not giving them a chance to expect points. And I think you see more of the same. And I don't say that because I think Philadelphia is good. I say that because I think Cleveland is so abysmal. I don't know how you can trust this team, let alone back them. Now, of course, at some point, points are points, but it's so hard to trust Cleveland in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, interesting stat here in our 10 last 10. So we use two things in our database for quarterbacks. We use their last 10 expected points added per game and their career expected points added per game. Deshaun Watson in his last 10 games, negative 5.7 points added, meaning he's literally taking points away versus an average quarterback. So that's interesting to me. I find it interesting. We'll see. It's coach talk, right? There's no chance he'll, basically he won't be benched. I don't know if Philadelphia wins by 21. I'm not sure how you'd have any other choice but to put Watson in or Jameis Winston in. But I mean, this is an interesting matchup, to be honest. Philadelphia 15th passing offense, 7th rushing offense. Cleveland 27th passing offense, 22nd rushing offense. But this is where there's some issues with me here. Cleveland still okay on defense, 14th against the pass, 13th against the rush. Philadelphia 25th against the pass, 17th against the rush. To me, I have two major questions. Is this the week where Cleveland's offense can get right going against a bad Philadelphia defense? Or is this the week that a bad Philadelphia defense can get right going up against a bad offense for Cleveland? And I don't know what the answer is. The market giving us an 8.5 is kind of telling us we think it's the latter there, with a Philly defense kind of getting and showing what they saw against the Saints, but then kind of shit the bed the week after. And we have more data at this point that this Philadelphia defense is not fixed than we have that it is fixed. So I don't know. Is this the game where it all clicks again? I'm not certain. I'm not sold.
Yeah, but and I'm with you, but I feel like we made that same argument for the Browns for the Commanders last week, right? I mean, because you come in and we're talking about our EPA landscape, and you look at Washington, and their offense is really off the charts, but their defense is absolutely a liability. But specifically, their pass defense is a liability. And we said, hey, this Browns defense is good. This can be a game you'd expect a rookie to struggle. And they didn't. And quite frankly, Deshaun did. And so I don't know. I get where you're coming from. And like the football fan, the logical person inside of me wants to believe that. And to some extent, deep down, I still do believe that. But it's just, fool me once, right? Fool me 5 times. Shame on me.
I guess I just like, part of me is like, this is still an NFL team, right?
True.
And if Baker can win by 21, maybe he can have some success. I don't know. This does look like a just dumpster fire. It's so apropos that it is against the Browns. Like it's just like the Browns being the Browns, and like they're always just going to be the Browns. Like it's just kind of it's just something poetic about it. All right, so I guess gun to your head, what are you taking? It sounds like you're laying the 8.5 the Eagles, and you just kind of pray.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel great about it, but yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah, whatever the
you?
opposite of like immovable object meets unstoppable forces, whatever the opposite of that is, that's what this game is. Is like an offense that can't going up against a defense that wants you to score. It's just like it's really really interesting. So I think because of that, I think unfortunately maybe you try to target like points scored for Eagles, like a team total. Maybe is the way to go here. I think that might be more appropriate than a side. I can totally see Eagles covering, but an 8.5 number is big in the NFL. I don't care, who you're saying, but you're going to try to convince yourself, well, obviously the Commanders could do it last week, so it's going to be easy peasy. But we've seen the Eagles struggle against these large spreads, and we've been burned personally by them. Yeah. Sometimes they cover, but a lot of the time they don't. This is the game where they kind of come up short. They win by 6. And yeah, they win, but it isn't the offense showing that they're capable of. So that's kind of my opinion there. Stay away from me personally. Stay away from the model. No value from our opinion. All right, we're headed into Sunday Night Football. Bengals at Giants. Giants coming off a big win. We talked about it against Seattle. That was very impressive in my mind. Cincinnati, kind of complete opposite, coming off of just a blunder of a game. They had every chance to win, and they just didn't do it there. Muffed the kick at the end and gave up the big run and ended up losing in overtime. Thank you to them for that, because that allowed us to cover our Ravens minus 2.5. I have to say this is another ugly bet. It's full transparency. Minus 3.5 is where it opens. We make this number 7. This is a model play. We are fully in support of Bengals minus 3.5 here for a play. I have to say, Steve, I love this bet. I love this.
Well, tell me more why.
Okay.
Tell me more why.
Okay, I'll tell you why. Cincinnati, 3rd pass offense, 6th rushing offense. This offense is moving the damn ball, and they were able to do it against the Ravens. They were able to do it against the Commanders. They've had success. They did it against the Chiefs, damn it. They just have not figured out how to close these games out. They did it against Carolina when they covered, and they won by 10. This is a team for me that I think is going to have a lot of offensive success. The questions I have, if this thing is not going to cover, is can we get any defensive showing from Cincinnati's defense? Currently 26th and 27th against the pass and the rush. But if we look at the Eckle rates, gives me a little bit of hope. New York Giants defense, 14th in Eckle rate, but Cincinnati's 17th in Eckle rate. So they're not actually too far off there in defensive Eckle rate. And so I think that there's enough here where we can slow them down enough. We only have to cover by basically 4, which, is basically a touchdown. They kick a field goal. So I think with the offensive firepower, we're getting a pretty much top tier offense at a discount. That's why I love this bet. In summary, tell me why I'm crazy.
No, I won't give you any reason at all. And I think for me, again, we talk about, especially in the, this early part, the first quarter of the season, you're going to have these glimpses of, I don't want to overuse the word variance, but like the variant teams to show up, right? So, I'll give you an example. We look at the Saints for the first 2 games and the Saints the last 3 games. Now, that's kind of a bad example because going back to the 15-game sample size, the Saints really are just good on both sides of the ball. Yeah. But what you're seeing on the field in terms of them dominating the Cowboys and then them getting dominated can kind of seem kind of crazy. And it's like, well, which team are we getting? Like, who are these teams? We talk about who are the Atlanta Falcons? Are they actually good or not? For me, I gotta have to kind of trust who the Giants are, that they're telling us they are who they are. Meaning that I'm looking at a team who consistently has a negative offensive EP, a team that is, has a Daniel Jones at quarterback who is consistently struggling and not making plays, save for Malik Neighbors, who's doing the Lord's work and sort of getting him out of there. And Darius Slayton had a good game last week too. But I believe this is a team who is not the team that beat Seattle and, quite frankly, could have had that game tied. They didn't block a field goal, then take it back for a touchdown. So that game was a lot closer than the final score may have indicated. I think that's what that team is. And I do the same thing for Cincinnati. This is a team, like you mentioned, the pieces are all there. They just had to kind of put it through from minute 1 through minute 60, and I trust them a lot more to get that done than I do New York. So I don't think you're crazy at all. But me being the hater, I'm saying I discredit New York being a threat more than I think the Cincinnati is the legitimate team, although I clearly think they are.
Yeah,
More so tongue in cheek.
Yeah, it's fair. I think, right, if this is a shootout, though, who would you rather have, Joe Burrow or Daniel Jones?
Oh, yeah, right.
Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, there are serious concerns for Cincinnati's defense. I don't want to ignore that. This is a big concern, and quite frankly, the only reason they are where they are. This team's won one game.
Yeah.
Right. Shout out to our under 10.5 wins for Cincinnati, but this is concerning. But I do think that this is a similar situation. If we look at the last 15 game sample, the Giants are in that same tier as the Panthers are, and so I think that you could see a similar go at this, where they did the defense did have success against the Panthers, right? So can they put something together there? And I think we should be able to see more and more efficiency from Joe Burrow and others, and again cover that 3.5. Win, lose, or draw, I'm okay with it. All right. Any other things for Sunday Night Football? That'll be a big game.
Yeah, no, very excited for that. But nah, I've got nothing
important
more
from both these teams. Like Cincinnati has to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, we set that when they were 0-2, and then we said that when they were like this is classic shit I get off the pot. Like there is no more room for error. And like, yes, you look at the standings, and Baltimore now kind of coming back, and I think they're by far, even though what are they? What's Baltimore right now?
3-2.
3-2 now. Yeah, 3-2.
Yes, 3 straight.
Yeah, there it is, right? Because I was checking last night, they are by far the favorite to win the AFC North. I mean, more so than I thought in terms of the odds would be here. I thought I saw like a -2 something, high twos, but yeah, I know. I thought that was kind of way off. But
sorry,
no, point just being like it's now or never.
Yeah, and this is a team winning against the Chiefs until deep into the fourth, winning against the Ravens deep into the fourth. I mean, they obviously dominated. Dominated the Panthers. What are some of their other wins? They lost a shootout against Washington. Washington looks to be the one team that has figured out how to pull off good offense and good defense within a season. And then what's their other team? What's their other loss? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I don't be surprised if all of a sudden Cincinnati wins 2-3 here in a row, because they are a good team that is playing really good talent. They've been leading in these games, but they've just figured out a way to lose these games in these incredible spots. And in a weird, interesting way, they've kind of taken a page out of the Ravens book. Like they're just giving up games that they're winning, and there's just kind of no excuse. So I'm happy to be on Cincinnati here. I think it's a really good buy low spot. I think you're getting a top 5 offense at like this look ahead line was 5. You're getting a 1.5, and I think we got a -105, 3.5. Maybe it was 110. I can't remember, but I mean, you're getting a discount here. You're getting a discount. 100%. There's no reason that line would go down if they would have won. If McPherson makes that kick, the line stays at 5, if not goes up.
Right.
But because 100%. He misses one kick, we get a discount. So we're buyers, we're buying, and we bought.
And just to come back on that point to answer your question, the Patriots was another loss, the first game of the season.
Shout out.
We were on. But in the Ravens currently -285 to win the AFC North. Cincinnati +850.
Where's that at? I'm sprinkling.
You're not gonna like it.
Oh, DK.
The book that should not be named.
800. Is that the best number?
No, here I haven't. There, let me check. I just had it open because I was checking this.
Yeah, I can get to it. Okay, so we're looking at division wins, futures win division, right? All right, win division. Cincinnati +850 is Caesars. It shows that DK is +380. But you're seeing it in real time.
So, I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, it's probably just delayed. But Caesars has the same thing, +850, which looks to be the same number. Okay. I'll run some simulations and see. I'll run some sims. But I mean, there's a lot of dynamics at play. You got to take a look at the Steelers, and you got to take a look at the Browns. The Browns, to me, are why you're wanting to move so swiftly, and then this slow start. Now, yeah, I just think that the Cincinnati Bengals have a top 5 offense. And when you have a top 5 offense, you can win games. They've just figured out how to lose games that they should. I mean, if we're sitting here and they win against the Chiefs, they win against the Baltimore Ravens, they're 3-2.
Yeah, it's completely different story.
And they've beat 2 of the best teams in the league.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, what could this team be? Instead, we're getting a discount of 3.5 against the Giants. So, yeah. Okay, well, that is what it is. Next week we'll have some answers if where we're at with that division and if we have any bets there. All right, Monday Night Football. This all of a sudden got, I don't know, more important than maybe it would have 24 hours ago. We got Jets. We got Bills at Jets. This is a New York game, but man, breaking news this morning: Robert Saleh, first coach fired. Bring me back to Bet Bash. We're sitting there talking about talking with Plus EV vets. We were like, hey, our numbers really, really don't support the Jets. It shows that this team is going to struggle a lot. We're hearing all these touts. What are your numbers saying? He pointed out something we hadn't seen at that point, and he said that Circa had the New York Jets were the most bet team for Saleh to be the first coach fired and the most bets. Was it to win the Super Bowl, or was it like
I think it's
improved team, or was it most improved team or something like this?
I thought it was Super Bowl, but
it was diametrically opposite.
Yeah,
it was basically two opposite yin and yang opinions. Basically, the Jets were going to struggle, or the Jets are going to be this amazing team. And we kind of heard all of it.
Right.
But we actually never heard the Jets would struggle. That was all from us and our numbers. I guess it's still, the jury's still out, but firing your head coach 6 games into the season, you're 2-3 seems interesting. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, this is one of those things where you talk about like organizational failures, right? We talk about how the Browns are going to Brown. Like this just seems like a New York thing, and it looks even worse when you have a Geno Smith who is now, been killing it. Comeback player of the year, killing it over in Seattle. When you have these other quarterbacks who are going through. But it brings the question: do we as NFL fans, and specifically you guys as Jets fans, we owe Zach Wilson an apology? I mean, we've seen so many different quarterbacks who were cemented as busts, cemented as backup quarterbacks, come through and now are kind of killing it. Again, we talked about Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. To some credit, to some degree, Andy Dalton had that one game of success, but Geno Smith. Is Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, can Zach Wilson thrive somewhere else? Is it really New York the problem? Because Aaron Rodgers does not, and again, I get he's 40, but he does not seem to be the solution that everyone thought he was going to be. And you got to wonder, how much can a quarterback do?
Well, to your point, in our 15-game sample, New York is actually the worst offense in our 15-game sample. And if I believe I saw this correctly, through week 6 of last year through week 6 of this year, they have thrown the same amount of touchdowns in both week 6.
For the first 6 weeks of each season. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if he owes an apology. Is Hackett the problem? Is this? And this is this is like the other thing of like why players can't be GMs or shouldn't be GMs. It's like this whole like kumbaya like thing Aaron Rodgers has been trying to do, where it's like, oh, when he was at Green Bay, no, I want to have Randall Cobb back. And then Randall Cobb backs, it doesn't do anything. Then, you go in. Randall Cobb was on the Jets last year. Like, get Hackett back together, get the gang back together. Because it's just going to be, all the good stuff you always had. And it just doesn't look like it's actually happened. I don't know what firing a coach does right now. Unless there was some like crazy disagreement. I did see some rumor that actually Saleh was going to fire Hackett, and potentially that the owner said, no, I'd rather actually have him than you. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get to Devontae and he doesn't want that. There could be a number of reasons in there. I don't see why now is the time to do it, but shout out. I don't own an NFL team. Maybe once I do one day, I can make better decisions. But
it does make you wonder too, just about, and shout out to Eric, because this is the point I was going to bring up too. You had some about rumors in the reports, he got escorted out by security, couldn't even talk to the players before, after the decision got made, before, he had to leave the building. Yeah. So it's unceremonious. It seems like an understatement here. So, how long is this brewing? But like, this is the same guy who you were just touting, you being the, Just organization, was just touting a year ago about how good they turned around this organization, how they took Zach Wilson and essentially made a 500 record when with him as a starter, which seemed like crazy talk because that
Yeah.
defense was so good and yada yada. So I don't know. This just seems like, again, I'm not calling for a collapse, but there's something weird going on in New York, and I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, looking at stats this season, Jets are the 19th pass offense, 25th rushing offense. They're struggling. Buffalo, second passing offense, 10th rushing offense. They're doing pretty well offensively. Buffalo is, and they haven't really slowed down at all. The interesting thing for Buffalo, they're struggling defensively. Still sixth against the pass, but 21st on the ground in defending the rush. And I don't know that the Jets are the team that's going to be able to exploit this, to be honest. So
Mhm.
it's a bit tricky here. Model makes this number 2, obviously still sitting at 2.5. I haven't seen the market react to the firing. They threw the ball like 51 times in London, or maybe it was 55 times, over 50 times. The success here has got to come on the ground, and I don't know that they want to do that. I don't know that they're capable of doing that. And I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned here. I don't know if I'm concerned enough to lay the 2.5, but I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong. One stat here I did think was interesting is we have like 2 levels of regression. So we have that for Allen, his last 10 games, he's playing at 8.6 expected points, but his career 5.3. So he's playing over expected. A-Rod, career 8.9 points per game added, last 10 games 3.7. So he's struggling in his last 10 games. So my question was, are you seeing opposite regression? Are we going to see A-Rod regress back to a prime time A-Rod, and we're going to see Allen regress to some struggles, or are these guys playing kind of what they're playing these days?
Yeah, and for me, you look at what Josh is doing, and I think for me it's really impressive because he's doing this without that quote unquote star receiver, right? Like you look at obviously Stefan's
Yeah.
gone and Gabe's gone and this and that. He still got Dawson, Kincaid at the tight end position, but he's spreading the ball around. He's really getting done in a very equitable fashion, and he's pretty efficient at doing that. And oh, by the way, as Bill fans, he's the best running back in the league, especially if you get him in the goal-to-goal scenario.
100%.
And so, to your point about how they're going to get this thing done, again, I have to trust the Buffalo team there. For me, like it's the same thing. Like this is a team that just doesn't seem to put it all together, but when they do figure it out in the second half, they make this game very interesting, right? They erase a 17-point deficit against Houston, and if Fairbairn didn't walk it off on the last second field goal, that game's going to overtime. We saw them in the first game of the season against the Cardinals, where same thing, they kind of got down early and then they came back and won a shootout 34-28, I believe. And so I just have more confidence that this Buffalo team can figure something out and get it together, where the Jets team that's what you're going to see from pretty much start to finish in the sample size that we've seen. And the last thing I'll say is I'm curious, Buffalo they're not world beaters when it comes to sack percentage and sack rate, but they can get to the ball. And that's very clearly how you stop Aaron Rodgers. You pressure a 40-year-old man and he's going to crumble. I mean, you saw him crawling on his knees throughout that game, last week. And so the secret's out here. So I don't know. For me, with the turmoil, the uncertainty, with the consistent lack of offensive production and the defense to maybe step it up a little bit, I lean Buffalo here, but I can't really make up or down of it.
Yeah, I think gun in my head, I got to go square. Square. I'm buying Buffalo chalk. Give me 2.5. I don't even know what I'm buying. Look,
Sure.
this is the reality. You're going to shoot me in the head. I'm taking Buffalo 2.5, or I'm taking Jets money line. Because what's the point of getting 2.5 here? Like, there's just really no value to me there, especially given where the model puts this. I just don't know. And this was my thesis coming into the season, was like, we have not seen this in our database, which goes back to 2000, and we have back tested back to 2016 of modeling this. It's really difficult for teams to go from worst to first. And that was what it was going to take, or pretty damn close, for the Jets to be able to be a Super Bowl contender. And it was just like ubiquitously like, yeah, no problem. Like, Yeah, it was just Zach Wilson. Like that was it. That was it. And it's like that was it. That was it. That was
Right.
all of it. Maybe not. Maybe it's the play caller. Maybe it's a couple other pieces. Like and it looks like maybe that is the issue because this offense is still pretty stagnant. So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's a really good transition to let's talk about the league as in overall. Let's pull up the efficiency landscape. And actually, now that we say that, let's talk about the one team that has, for right now, pulled it off in going from worst to first, and that is literally the Washington Commanders, a team that was literally one of the worst, top 3 worst teams in the league last year, offensively and defensively. Now, one of the most efficient offense, one of still the worst defenses, to give them the credit they should deserve there, but they're not really doing it. Now they are getting better week in and week out. Only 2 weeks ago they were one of the best offenses and the actual worst defense. Now they're just one of the worst defenses. So they're actually getting a little bit better week in and week out. So tell me here, Steve, are you buying the Washington hype or are you selling the Washington hype?
Oh, I can't buy enough of it. I can't buy enough of it.
Oh, okay.
I
Can I
cannot
sell you
buy
some?
enough of it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, this is what teams dream about. And I think this is why people get so delusional. And I'll point to the Bears as an example, right? Like, oh, you just draft a quarterback in the first round and it's gonna all work out and everything's gonna go right. It's stuff like this that gives people hope and belief that can be done because you said it perfectly best. I mean, going from worst to first, I mean, Jaden Daniels has really turned this team around. And we talked about last year, our boy, Jacoby Brissett, right?
Yeah.
With right, when it was going to be his team, was it be Sam Howell's team? And you really saw kind of both of those things not really play out well. And can we, the person who has to be the most excited has to be Terry McLaurin, right? Because he has someone to actually give him
the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this team looks to really have figured it out consistently. Now, again, we'll see what the rest of the schedule says. It's only been 5 games played, but in the NFC East, we were already kind of going back and forth. The Cowboys and Eagles, neither of those teams look great. Neither of those teams look like they're going to be dominant and damn sure not invincible. I'm seeing enough chaos here where I can get behind a Washington Commanders NFC East ticket. I don't know I would go much further than that. Don't get me wrong. But in the NFC, East division that you're going to hear everyone say, oh, you've never had back-to-back winners and this and that, NFC least, I'm buying the chaos.
All right.
But clearly I'm crazy here. Tell me.
Yeah, well, I don't know you're crazy, but I'd love to sell you some hype. Look, offensively, real deal. The echo rate, 76% of their drives are landing at defining an echo, which is getting to the 40 or better. But their defense is 54% echo rate. Now, this is improved. Isn't in the 60s 2 weeks ago. So they're getting a little bit better here. But
Sure.
But I'm going to describe to you another team. Offensive echo rate, 63% of drives offensively defined as an echo. 52% of their defensive drive is an echo. Who's that team?
Baltimore Ravens?
Cincinnati Bengals. Okay. So, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we going to see? Should we? My larger point is, but here we are with Cincinnati 1-4.
Right.
I think Washington is just winning games at a level that they cannot sustain personally.
Sure.
And I think that what we're seeing is win shootouts. Now, the Cardinals was a bit of a layup or a bit of a difference. And then the Browns was another data point that was a bit different. But I don't know if we want to actually categorize that as a true data point because we don't know what's happening there with the Browns.
Sure.
So what I'm concerned of, and actually we're going to talk about it in a minute, but what I'm concerned of with this team is they're going to run into a team that is going to quote unquote get in a shootout with them, but then they actually stop them defensively and they can't get in the shootout. And then their defense can't actually stop. And then, we can't actually score enough to be in the shootout and they get blown out. That is what I think is more probable here in the coming weeks. And actually, I think it's going to happen this week against the Ravens because I think that they can figure out how to stop the run. I think they can limit Daniels. They know how to do that with a running quarterback in Lamar. And all of a sudden, that kind of shootout model that they've been kind of having, hard to have win a shootout if you can't score. So that's my only concern if I'm a Washington Commanders fan. Do they look improved? Do they look better? Yes. But they're just not showing up defensively enough for me to really be a true buyer. But I will say Dallas looks shaky. They look they look very interesting to me. That team is very interesting. I don't really know what to make of it. Eagles, another team I don't know what to make of it. Washington, yeah, maybe. What did you say you could get it at?
I don't know. That's just something I can look.
It's okay.
Right. Well, can I real quick though?
Yeah.
And thank you. It looks like 850 or 850 at Caesars. Shout out to Eric. Hey, can we pull up the landscape one more time though? Because I just want to I know you're selling high, but I want to just buy a small piece more. Here's kind of where I can get behind this whole NFC East thing. So you mentioned this right now, right? We talked about this Washington team's offense has been really off the charts, but their defense is going to be a liability. You see where Cincinnati's at, and honestly, you see where Baltimore's at. Not that much different, right? But what I can get behind this is you look defensively at least, right? If we're saying that that's what we're concerned about, and I do agree with you there, that is absolutely legitimate. Eagles, Cowboys, both are subpar defensively. And so if you're looking at this, what you're looking at is the defensive EPA per play on the y-axis and the offensive EPA on the x. And so where you want to be is where on defense towards the top, right? So you want to be where the Vikings are, the Bears, the Chargers, etc. So the further down you are, the worse you are. And so you look at the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants, and just bear with me for Giants. Remember me, they're all technically below average, right? Plus minus from the Giants. You look at their schedule, right? They've got the Ravens below average defense, although we are on the Ravens, and we have some arguments on why they could beat them. The Panthers below average, the Bears, which would be a hard game, the Steelers, which would be a hard game defensively wise, and then and the Titans. So that's 3 games where you do expect them to struggle, right?
Yeah.
And so look at the schedule. The last one you have is the Saints on December 15th. So you have 4 teams out of the remaining games who are above average defensive EPA. Everyone else is far below. And if we're talking average to bad defense with the Washington offense, if they can sustain this, I think Washington has a chance at least in the East. Now, what I will give you, Seth, is it is very hard for a team to sustain an Elko rate that insane.
Yeah.
That insane. I mean, 76% is otherworldly. And put it in perspective, the best team in the league, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the best team by far has been the San Francisco 49ers prior to this Commander sort of run. I think we talked about, and I think they were in the high 50s.
So right now it's Washington at 76%, and then Cincinnati at 63%, and then San Francisco 59%.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about I could be wrong here, but I think about no. I'm saying like thinking about last year, like kind of get to the end of the season where we're looking at these teams. You talk about the Chiefs and the 49ers, if I remember correctly, they're really kind of being otherworldly with Elko rates. My point being is you don't see 76 at the end.
No. You don't see that. This will not sustain. Yeah, your high 50s is elite.
Yeah.
Over a whole season, yeah, for sure. 76 is due for regression. Yeah. I think it's a fair point. I think we should run some sims and see 850 is if it's a good number or not. The question becomes in a 15-game sample. I can tell you. I mean, I don't think we have it in any of the numbers being able to be pulled up. But like in a 15-game sample, Washington's still the worst defense, and they're actually now average offense. So they're moving, and they're moving fast, and they're moving fast because they're so kick ass this year. But they're still average. So if you're going to look at a simulation using a power rating, I don't know that they're not going to put them here, right?
That's fair.
Those divisional games are going to be more like coin flips, not like slam dunks. So, but I think it's worth a look. So I think we should look. So we got 2 homework assignments: Cincinnati and Washington. Ironically, both at 850, and ironically, kind of very similar teams. Right. 76% echo rate for Washington, 63% offensive echo rate for Cincinnati, 54% defensive echo rate for Washington, 52% for Cincinnati. So these are very similar teams, but obviously 2 different schedules, 2 different divisions they need to win. All right, Steve. Anything else here? Any hot takes?
The hottest it takes. If you like this content, if you like what you're hearing, please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. That lets us know that we should keep making this kind of stuff for you week in, week out. We drop these podcast episodes every Wednesday for college football, every Thursday for NFL at noon Eastern. So let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you want us to talk about any other games, feel free to drop us a comment. We are happy to be flexible and kind of give you, the people, what you want to hear and what you want to see.
Yes, that's exactly right. And to piggyback off that, let us know in the comments, what are some futures we should be looking at? What are futures you're looking at? Where do you see value 6 weeks in? Where's your money going? This is a good time to be shopping because you can see a lot of overreaction for bad teams, a lot of overreaction for teams that are supposed to be good, like the Commanders potentially. And you can, pick teams off and pick up some good lines. All right, Steve, we're headed in to Off the Numbers, our new segment. This will be our third week where we're picking games independent of the model, trying to use our own handicapping, trying to use some, quote unquote, no ball logic. And first, as a recap, Kevin 2-0. Kevin's smoking us.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's 2-0. I'm 0-2. And Steve, you're in the same boat as I am. You're 0-2 as well. How you feeling?
Listen, like the Bengals, I start slow and I expect to make a run here. And I think that starts with this week because I have got a matchup, unlike Kevin's cheating ass, who picks up, lines that are never really available at the time, we pick for this segment. He's looking at look at headlines, and I say that because he's not here to defend himself. This was a great example of actually FanDuel being too good for their own good. So my off the numbers pick is I have the Buccaneers -1.5 over the Saints. We're looking at the Derek Carr injury. Well, let me back up. First of all, we're looking at Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. Talk about a team with a resurgence. Minus that one game against the Broncos, which unfortunately that was one of the games that we were on. The Buccaneers have really found out how to click it offensively, where I think in years past, we think of them as a defense first team. And then during the Tom Brady era, good and great enough defense, leave Tom Brady in the pocket. He can do enough to get the, win a Super Bowl and win the games. But this year, they're really getting it done on the offensive side. And outside of that one Broncos game, that's really what you've seen. And a Saints team who, we look at this, talk about the 15-game sample. This has been a team who has been defensively elite and still is really good. Let's not make any mistake here. But offensively, they've really been sort of picking up the slack and making it a more of a
100%.
balanced elite attack on both sides of the ball. And that's really kind of dropped off on the last couple of games. We saw back-to-back games with, I believe it was the Eagles and the Falcons, where the Saints really kind of struggled and got shut down offensively. And then we saw what happened against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And then, of course, the Derek Carr oblique injury and what's going in there. So when that injury happened, when he left the game, couldn't return, all the lines were actually taken down. I believe this opened up at Bucks +2. And then FanDuel actually, I thought it was a stale line. They were actually just the first rec book to put up a new line at -1.5, -115. So I sniped that, and I think right now it is -3.
Yeah, all the market makers open this at 3.
Yeah, so FanDuel, I respect the work you're doing, but hopefully I'm on the right side of this one, using information to my advantage and kind of picking off what I believe is a bad line, getting some instant CLV, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right. I like it. Kevin is on under 49.5 Green Bay versus Arizona, -105 over at FanDuel. Shout out. Make every moment more, as I think that's their slogan or something like this.
If you want to sponsor us, FanDuel, we're open.
Yeah. Shout out. We love to make moments more. I went back and forth. This one's tough for me. Pretty much anything I wanted to bet, the model had us bet. And so I went, I don't know. I ended up landing for my pick of this week for the NFL is Indianapolis Colts. Pick them -110 over at Caesars. There's a lot of hate right now on Deshaun Watson and how poor his quarterback play is. I'm banking that Will Levis is going to start this game. Will Levis, his numbers are actually worse than Deshaun Watson this season. And so they're marginally worse, or they're very much pretty much the same. But my larger point is, this is a guy that has very few starts. He's pretty much shit the bed in a lot of those starts. He had a little bit of a hot start, but I think that this is the Flacco coming out party. If we're not going to get Richardson, if we are going to get Richardson, give it to me, baby. I'll take it. I think this is just a poor spot, divisional game. I'm just kind of selling Levis. I'm selling this position. I'm selling him as a talent, and give me Pick'em Colts -110.
Okay. Yeah, and shout out to Eric. And let me kick Kevin one more time since he's not here.
Okay.
Yeah, his first 2 picks have all been around the Commanders. So can he actually make a pick that doesn't involve Washington? Time will tell.
Or in defense of Kevin, is he so good that he can get on while they're hot and get off before they cool? So,
Okay.
hey, maybe there's a method to his madness. All right, there it is. You see it. We see Steve Bucks -1.5, Kevin under 49.5, Arizona Green Bay, and me Colts pick 'em. Yeah, I don't know. I like this a bit. It definitely challenges me, puts me outside my comfort zone. Also making me lose money, which sucks. I ended up losing my first pick for the Saints by like a last second field goal, and then I was just dead wrong. I mean, shame on me for betting on Cleveland last week. I mean, I couldn't have just picked a worse spot. So
can I respectfully kind of turn the knife a little bit, because I remember on that week 1 where you had the Saints, because that was when I was eyeing as well.
Yeah.
And you were going back and forth between money line and spread.
Yeah. And
if you had the spread, you would have won. Yeah.
My bank account didn't like that. Because we're betting these guys. We're betting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. That's off the numbers. I think these are good picks. I like it. I'm happy. We'll see what ends up happening. I just sell Will Levis. I don't know why he's not getting enough hate right now. I think it's because he's potentially injured, might not play. I think they're coming off a bye, if I'm not mistaken. He should be playing in this game, I assume.
I saw a note that they were saying that they're vowing to stick with Will Levis for the time being.
Yeah, well, for now, for one more week.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. The only thing we have left is to go over the model predictions and what we're betting this week. This is actually our biggest volume bet of this week. We got 6 plays, chock full of value. You can see there, man, oh man, this is a big volume week. It's going to be a big week for us. So let's get into it. The current model record, 13-10, puts us in the green, baby, 56-ish%. Which actually we project that at the end of the season will be right around a 55% number. So we're not too far off here, but a lot of games to go. We project we'll be around 85 games total, and we're about to add 6 to the sample size. So let's run through them. First off, we're on Cincinnati Bengals -3.5, -110 is what we bet. We're on the LA Chargers -2, -110. We've already seen CLV there. The market has bought this up to 3, and I don't think it's coming back. Arizona Cardinals, we're on 5.5, +5.5, -110. Jacksonville Jaguars +2.5, -105. New England Patriots +7. Drake May getting his start, first confirmed start. New England Patriots +7, -105. And last but not least, Baltimore Ravens -6.5, -105. I like that one. I like that we're fading the Commanders. We're fading all 3 rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We're fading all of them. We're fading Chicago, we're fading Washington, and we're fading wherever the other one is. But the irony is, actually, we're not. Actually, I take that back. We're not fading all rookie quarterbacks because we're betting on Drake May. 6-6. Let's hope the Drake juju is good on our side, because who's the Bo Nix for LH for the Chargers. We're betting on the Chargers.
Broncos,
So 3 of the 4 top rated rookie quarterbacks we're fading, and the one we have no data we're actually supporting. And I think really what the model's picking up there is New England as an organization, and we actually model some of this out, is one of the most stable organizations. Now, a lot of that is because of Bill Belichick. So let's hope that new coaching staff, which is very much groomed and came up through Bill Belichick, hopefully can add that stability. But the thing I'm banking on here, or I'm hoping for, this move is coming because clearly the locker room wants this. They think that he is the best quarterback in that locker room. So do we get the same spark we saw? What was that? What was the first benching we saw? The Red Rocket. Red Rocket came in, threw 3 touchdowns.
Bryce Young.
One game. And look, now they've regressed back to who they are. Can we get a spark like that for the Patriots? We make the game 2 here with the Drake May start. So plenty of value. I'm happy with the card. How are you feeling with it?
Yeah, I mean, I hate the Jaguars pick. But if those you know, I'm a Bears fan, so that's I'm inherently
that
biased.
One's ugly.
Yeah,
these are a lot of ugly.
Yeah. So in all seriousness, I do love this card. The one that does legitimately scare me though is the Baltimore Ravens, and not because they're not a great team, but we've just seen this week in and week out of them just sort of like no lead is safe. Like there's no point in the time in a Ravens game do you feel like you can win this? Like the elite is safe for that. This is kind of wrapped up in the
that's
bag.
fair.
And ironically, they had a hell of a comeback last week, and that was great. They kind of showed us how elite this team can be when they're firing all cylinders. And the the Commanders' defense is definitely the defense to kind of get it done against. But that's just I've been burned so many times. But otherwise, I feel pretty good about this.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I don't know how I feel about it. I think it's just they're interesting spots. We are fading most of the rookie quarterbacks, so I kind of think I like that. But the problem with that is you're assuming that all these guys are going to play like rookies, and quite frankly, they kind of have, other than Washington. So the Chicago struggled,
Right.
offensively. Denver struggled offensively. So we'll see what we get there. All right, that is week 6 in the books. We got 6 plays, ironically, for week 6, which is nice. We will be back next Thursday at noon. These drop always noon Eastern on Thursday. Let us know in the comments what you want to see for week 7, what futures plays you guys are betting, and what you're betting for week 6. And we'll get back with you with any of the model information. All right, Steve, anything left for the people?
No, other than if you like this content, again, like, subscribe. And if you want to see the kind of stuff we've been showing on this on the podcast today, btb-analytics.com.
Yes.
We have free data, we have paid data, we have the model subscription. All the info will be in the description below. Check it out. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, exactly. And like Steve said, all of the data we talked about today and all the data we showed completely free on the website. You can get echo rate, EPA per play, all these advanced metrics for every team. You can get them for free on the website. So like Steve said, BTB-analytics, or use the link in the description below. All right, everybody, that is going to be it for week 6. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you in week 7. And as always, good luck.